recognizes the gentleman from New York's 20th District for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I ask questions or make comments here, let me thank you for all the discussion about the Weatherization Act today. I appreciate the full committee's leadership and the subcommittee's leadership echoing their sentiments to try and get something done on that important bill. So I thank you. Mr. Novak, earlier this year, when Secretary Wright testified before the subcommittee, I had asked him about the status of previously appropriated funding going from DOE's office to state and community energy programs to state partners. This includes funding for programs like the State Energy Program, the Weatherization Assistance Program, and the Weatherization Readiness Fund. Secretary Wright stated that DOE was working to meet the typical July 1st deadline and expected to have the money out shortly thereafter. And to his and the department's credit, on July 8th, DOE sent a press release celebrating the release of these funds and acknowledging President Trump's leadership in tackling energy affordability issues. I entered that press release, this press release, into the hearing record at a similar subcommittee hearing last week, so I won't belabor that point. But I'd like to ask you, Mr. Novak, for a status update on these funds actually being accessible to states so that our constituents may benefit from them. At last week's hearing, we heard testimony that approximately only 6 of 56 states and territories have had their state plans approved by DOE. So, sir, can you provide any clarity on this? Are states being held up from accessing or spending SEP, weatherization, and weatherization readiness funds because DOE has been slow to approve state plans?
I'll have to take that question for the record. I'd be more than happy to follow up with the SCEP team to figure out what the status of the funding is.
Okay, I appreciate that, but a number of colleagues on this panel have sent letters to the agency for an update, and I would like a commitment to get that ASAP from the department. Can we get that commitment? Please?
Yes, and I will follow up also with our CI team to ensure that we've responded to the correspondence.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If there are, in fact, states currently in this situation, can you provide a timeline for when those states should expect to have their plans approved?
I'll take that question up with the SCEP team as well and follow up on the record.
Well, I know DOE has lost a lot of personnel in the past 9 months, which I believe may include some positions who have historically reviewed these plans or otherwise helped administer these programs. Are you seeing the effects of the loss of these full-time equivalent positions in implementing DOE programs?
I don't have a line of sight on there being a human resource gap, for example, in regard to the administration of community-based grants through the SCEP program or other programs. What I would say is, as a result of the DRP program, we have fewer people. We have fewer people, but a lot of the effort at this point is just making sure we're allocating people where people are needed to make sure that the work's getting done. I'd be happy in having the conversation with the SCEP team about the press release and the release of the funding and the status and timing. There was a conversation I had earlier in response to a question. This bill that's before the committee is the first time it would implement a statutory framework for the administration of the program. So one of the things that I'm eager to ask and we'll follow up on is how we plan to staff the implementation of that framework.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Novak, I'd like to take issue with some of your testimony about H.R. 1355. You stated the bill, and I quote, mandates a new government program. I'd like to ask you to clarify this. Has the Department of Energy administered the Weatherization Readiness Fund for the past several years?
It is. I think what I intended to say there, I think, is we have a new statutory framework, and the readiness program, I believe, is a new component, if I'm not mistaken. And if I've misspoken on that, my apologies. But the readiness program, as I understand it, is intended to fund the improvement of site conditions that would otherwise preclude weatherization efforts. So, for example, there's a safety issue at the site, there's a hole in the roof, it doesn't make any sense to do insulation on the envelope if you've got a hole in the roof. So my understanding is the readiness is sort of the preparatory site work, if you will.
Well, let me ask this then. Has DOE previously published guidance with program rules to support the implementation of the Weatherization Readiness Fund?
I'll have to take that question for the record.
So I think they have. While I agree this bill will authorize the Readiness Fund for the first time, I would like the record to show that this program already exists. It is doing good work, being celebrated by DOE press releases, and it should be this committee's responsibility to make certain that we're formally authorizing the program. And I think it's essential. It's proven to be a benefit to consumers. So with that, I thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The